welcome to Sunday School on Sunday, May 10th. Today we're starting a new unit in our Sunday School book called Jesus Among the People, Jesus Among the People. And today's lesson comes from Mark chapter 1, verses 21 through 28, and then skip down to verses 35 through 42. And the point of today's lesson is that Jesus' teaching and miracles reveal his identity. Jesus' teaching and his miracles reveal his identity. They reveal that he is God. So obviously we know a lot about Jesus from the Bible, but there's also a great amount of mystery surrounding Jesus. One of the things we don't know much about is Jesus between the ages of 13 and 30. We can read about his birth. We have just one story from when Jesus was a 12-year-old boy, and then we have nothing from ages 13 to 30, which is when he was beginning his public ministry. Now, of course, there were several people who knew Jesus and knew who he was and were friends with him, but at this point, he wasn't as popular as he would soon be. So as he begins his public ministry and he's out more among the people, people are instantly amazed at his power and authority. The things that Jesus says and the things that Jesus does, they reveal his identity, and they reveal that he is more than just a man. He's divine. He is God. So let's read Mark chapter 1, verses 21 through 28, and then verses 35 through 42. If you have a Bible, grab yours and follow along with me. It says, Then they is Jesus and the disciples that he had just called, they went into Capernaum, and right away he entered the synagogue on the Sabbath and began to teach. And they, the people in the synagogue, were astonished at his teaching, because, unlike the scribes, he was teaching them as one having authority. And just then a man with an unclean spirit was in their synagogue. He cried out, What do you have to do with us, Jesus, Nazarene? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. But Jesus rebuked him and said, Be quiet, and come out of him. And the unclean spirit convulsed him, shouted with a loud voice, and came out of him. Then they were all amazed, so they began to argue with one another, saying, What is this? A new teaching with authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. And his fame then spread throughout the entire vicinity of Galilee. We skip down from verse 28 to verse 35. It says, Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, that's Jesus, he got up, went out, and made his way to a deserted place. And he was praying there. Simon and his companions went searching for him. They found him and said, Everyone's looking for you. And Jesus said to them, Let's go on to the neighboring villages so that I may preach there too. This is why I have come. So he went into all of Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. Then a man with a serious skin disease came to him, and on his knees begged him, If you are willing, you can make me clean. Moved with compassion, Jesus reached out his hand and touched him. I am willing, he told him, be made clean. And immediately the disease left him, and he was healed. When Jesus teaches in the synagogue, the listeners take note of his special authority. When this demon-possessed man shows up and the demon speaks out against Jesus, Jesus calls out the demon, and again, the people that are observing notice his authority. And so people start to figure out Jesus' power and his authority and his ability, and the word begins to spread. And then a little bit later on, this man with leprosy comes to Jesus and he begs him to make him clean. And in Jesus' great compassion and his great willingness, of course, indeed, he healed the man. There's all these miracles, all throughout Jesus' ministry, he did so many amazing things, so many amazing miracles. And many of them we can read about in the scriptures, but we have to imagine that there are even so many more miracles that just weren't recorded. And sometimes we can get caught up in all those miracles and all these amazing things that Jesus did, and we should. But I don't want you to miss what Jesus himself said in Mark 1:38. He said, Let's go on to the neighboring villages so that I may preach there too. He said, This, to preach, this is why I have come. Jesus' main mission was to preach and to teach and to spread the news about the salvation and the forgiveness that he offered. His miracles, all the things that he did, the casting out of demons, healing of the sick, those were secondary And what they did is they allowed people to see, hey, this guy Jesus, he really is special. He really is divine. He really is God in the flesh. And while you and I today don't have the privilege of seeing Jesus face to face as the people in that synagogue did, or as the man with leprosy did, their stories that we can still read about, they testify to us today the same truth, that Jesus is divine. Jesus is God. Jesus was and is a God-man, fully man and fully God. And because of that, he was the perfect sacrifice, and he was willing and able to die in our place to pay the price for our sin. Do you believe that today? If you do believe that, let's just take a second to celebrate that and to thank him for that. If you don't believe that, or if you have questions about that, please reach out to us so we can talk more about that. So that's our lesson today from Mark chapter 1. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great week.